In this video, I want to talk about the Unit 2 Populism Timeline assignment, which obviously is available in Unit 2. Now, this assignment is not asking you to do a whole lot, and it's quite easy to fulfill the requirements. But you have to understand exactly what you need to do and technically how you need to do it. So there's one document here, the People's Party Omaha Platform. This was the platform of the Populist Party, also known as the People's Party, in 1892. This was a political party of farmers who were thought to be radical at the time, largely because of their program, which is summed up here by these 8 goals. Graduated income tax, guarantee of safe deposit of money in banks, adoption of secret ballot, initiative and referendum, limit president to 1 term, direct election of senators to U.S. Congress. That means the people vote for the senators instead of the state legislatures, immigration restriction, and public ownership of railroads. Within 20 years of this platform, almost all of these things were pushed into law by the middle class, even though, at the time in 1892, most Americans thought that the populists were radical. And so that's one of the most interesting developments in American history, that the populists actually paved the way for many of these very conventional things that we take for granted today. The only thing that was really radical on this list was the last one, public ownership of railroads, telephone and telegraph. We don't have that. That would definitely be a form of socialism. However, we do have government regulation of these things big time. So even there, the middle class went in the direction of what the populists wanted. But in every other respect, the middle class supported these things. Now, of course, immigration restriction, we would say today, is certainly not a reform, but it was regarded as a reform at the time. So now what you need to do is to find out where in this document each of these things is called for. That's one thing you have to do. Second, you have to create a timeline in which you identify the year each of these things was actually passed into law. And finally, along with that year, you have to explain where each of these things was enacted. For example, one of these things was enacted by a constitutional amendment. Actually, 2 of these things were adopted by a constitutional amendment. So when you create your timeline, you not only place the year next to the item, but you explain what the item is, you type that out, and then you explain where it was implemented. For example, a constitutional amendment, if that was the case. And of course, you need to be accurate about the year in which it was enacted. We are going to be using Canva and a template that I've created for your timeline creation process. So you're going to have to sign up for a free account with canva.com, and once you do and set up your login and password and click on this template after you've already set up your free account, then you'll be able to modify the template so that you can create an image that is a timeline that you can then include in a Word document as your fulfillment of the assignment. So let's take a look very quickly at this Omaha platform document. And so, for example, let's just take one example. I suppose I'll give you one of the answers. Notice it says 8 resolved, that we favor a constitutional provision limiting the office of president and vice president to 1 term, and providing for the election of senators of the United States by a direct vote of the people. Well, of course, that second part is one of the 8. So what you have to do is, when you find out when that was enacted and how. You explain both things on the timeline, and you also say expression of sentiments number 8. Now, if it was up here, for example, here's where we see a graduated income tax. You would say finance number 3. So, of course, that's only one of the things you have to do. You have to also give the correct date when it was enacted and how it was enacted on the timeline. Next, we'll look at the creation of the timeline, which is the other part of the assignment. Now, here is the Canva site, www.canva.com. And what you need to do is you need to sign up for a free account in order to edit the template. And when you go to Canva, you get this little sign, and it says sign up with email. So you could click that, and then you put your name, you put your email address, and you create a password using these requirements, and then click. Now, once you have signed up, you don't need to actually do anything on the Canva site. You may need to go back to your email in order to confirm the email address. Canva will not really let you use Canva, even if you sign up for an account, unless you confirm your email. So go to your email and do that. And then the next step is to go back to the assignment. And to do that, of course, you go to Content and Unit 2. And once you open up Unit 2, you get all these different parts of Unit 2, including the Populism timeline, which you open up. And here's the description of it right there. It says it's due June 14th. Now you can click on this template right here. And when you click on that, because you have a Canva account now and you've already opened it up, then you click Use Template. It says Edit the design now. Now, if you haven't already opened up Canva, that's okay. Just click Log In, and now you can log into your Canva account. And when you do that, you'll be able to edit the document. So I'm going to put mine in, and I'll see you on the other side after I put in my email and password, and we'll see what it looks like. Now you see that Canva has opened up, and because I had a Canva account and I logged on, it's a free account, it has the template that I provided to you in that link in the assignment. Now it's hard to read here, but if you go down to this slide bar, you can make it go bigger like this. Just slide this over and you can see that it gets bigger. Now you see that this timeline says a brief history of volleyball, but that's just because it's a template. So what you need to do is you need to click on this title, and you can change the heading to Populists or something like that. Now that's too big, so you can go up here to the size of the font and you can make it smaller. See how it's getting smaller? So you could keep that brief history if you want, or you could just hit the delete key and then it's gone. You want to get rid of this, so click on it and then hit the delete key. Now you can change these dates to the dates that are appropriate to those 8 items. Let's see how many we got here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, that's great. So then you got others that you're going to have to get rid of. So you can just click on that, and you click on 1934, get rid of that. 1964, get rid of that. But really, you're just going to have to delete these things one by one so that you only have 8 items on the timeline, and delete the year. So I'm just clicking on these titles. And of course, we don't need this volleyball, so we'll get rid of that. And so now all you have to do is then put the correct dates when these things were enacted. And then over here, you want to get rid of the text. So you can highlight the text and then eliminate the text, and then you can type something in. The first item, when it was enacted, it wasn't 1895 in all likelihood, so you'll have to change that date to whatever the date happened to be. I'm just selecting that arbitrarily, so I'll eliminate that, but you put a date in there, and then you go over here and you click on text and choose add a little bit of body text and bring this up. You can drag this up by left clicking on your mouse. It is too big, and so you'll need to make it smaller by clicking on this font title, and then you identify the particular populist goal that this represents, the place in the document where you found it, as I explained before, and the way in which it was enacted. For example, if it was enacted by a constitutional amendment. Maybe it was enacted by a state law that spread to other states. There are various ways it could be enacted. Maybe it was enacted by an act of Congress. But you do that for the 8 items, and if any items are after 1920, you'll have to put them down here. Otherwise, you can leave these blank. So that is what you need to do. And then when you're done with that, all you have to do is click download up here. I would change this to a JPEG and then click download. And when you do that, it downloads the file. You can't really see this. They're trying to give you advertising, but you can click that off. And at the very bottom of the screen, you can't see it on your view, but at the very bottom of the screen, there is a copy of the template as you have modified it. It's a JPEG, so you can embed that in a doc file, a Microsoft doc file, and that's what you turn in as an attachment. So that's how you complete your Populism timeline assignment.